I'm just going to be letting people join for a minute before I'm speaking. So I'm just letting you guys know I will be talking. I'm just going to wait a couple minutes for people to come in before I start speaking. This is recorded. Anyone can feel free to record as well if they want. I plan on leaving it up so people can listen to it if they need to and go through it. I've been left to space up, so I don't know if I need to do anything other than that, but I think it's already set to being saved. I just want to explain what I'm going to be talking about for a second, and then I have a lot to say, so this will probably be a long space. This isn't scripted or planned, so I'm sorry if I pause or stumble over my words or anything. I'm just going to be speaking from my feelings and my thoughts, and so I know every word will probably be analyzed, but just know that this is just me and my pure thoughts, and um, it's not. I don't know exactly what I'm going to say. First things first, I just want to, as quickly and as the very first thing I want to be is say that I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Katie. I'm sorry for in any way whatsoever that I contributed to your pain. I just would like to make it clear that until 3 days ago, whenever this first happened, I had no idea whatsoever that anything sexual took place in any way whatsoever. I had no idea of Katie's discomfort or anything at all until her original statement. And I want to try and give some perspective for myself and on everything. I just want to make it clear that I'm not speaking for George. I'm not speaking about George either. I know he said in his tweet that he has more to say, and I don't know what that's going to be. I just want to speak about my own thoughts, my own experience, in order to give perspective to things. I think that discussions like this are important to have because understanding is very important in preventing anything remotely like this from happening to anyone in the future. And so nothing that I say is to invalidate anything. Nothing that I say is to argue with anything. Anything I say is purely 100% just to show my perspective and show, try and find understanding with Katie, with anyone who wants to understand me as a human being, as a person. I think that I am a reasonable person that does, I think that I'm a good person. I think that I always will try my best to do good and do good things. So I feel necessary to explain my perspective as a person. This will probably be emotional, so I'm sorry for that as well. We'll talk a little bit about sensitive topics. So if that's sensitive to you, uh, just be aware, I guess. So yeah, I want to go back to what I said before, which is obviously I had no idea about anything sexual taking place. I just want to give perspective on for the my interactions at all with them. Katie and Ghosty, I met through just a friend of mine, and uh, uh, they were everyone was hanging out. They were all hanging out. I actually, just to be honest, this was a very long time ago, so not everything will be perfect in terms of what I exactly remember. I actually don't remember my first ever interactions with them. I think it was at a house party, if I remember correctly. Everyone was just drinking and having fun. And I hadn't actually been out much around VidCon because I was wearing the mask, so I hadn't really been out much around there. I think uh, everyone was just having a good time, and that was it. My perspective from on them still up until still to now is that they were great people. They were very nice and very friendly, and very fun to be around. Uh, and that didn't change. When I say I knew that nothing, I had no idea that anything sexual happened. I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea. So someone mentioned about me, the some there was some screenshot that somebody that in Katie's post in her second post regarding ages, and I wasn't really concerned with anybody's ages because nothing from my perspective, nothing was happening at all. It was we were all, everyone was just playing games and having fun, and just to give some insight into drinking because people mentioned underage drinking. Uh, they were almost everyone that was there was 21 or older. Obviously, Katie Ghosty was nearly 21, and Katie was not obviously. But just to give insight into that, uh, I don't know. I don't know what the morally correct thing is to do with alcohol in terms of everybody. Obviously, I think at conventions it's pretty commonplace for people that creators that are 18, 19, 20, whatever age to drink, I guess. I've never seen or been around anyone at a party that has gone up to a 17-year-old, or not 17, an 18-year-old or 19-year-old or anybody and been like, hey, put that alcohol down. You shouldn't be drinking, especially not if they're already drunk or they're just around 20 other of their friends. So I just genuinely, I don't know if that's incorrect of me or that's something that if that's something that I need to in the future be more cautious of, because that's not something that I was thinking about. I wasn't thinking at all about, oh, this person is 20 years old and they're drinking alcohol. They shouldn't be doing that. I didn't have that perspective. I understand some people do, and I'm sorry for not thinking about that. Uh, from my perspective of that night, um, I wasn't trying to, hook up with anybody. I wasn't trying to talk to anybody in any way other than, friendly. And I didn't, and they obviously have never claimed anything otherwise. And they were drunk, before they came, so I didn't have any problem with anybody drinking. I didn't try and intervene in anything whatsoever. And from my perspective, uh, I had no problem with anybody at all. Um, and so I wasn't just that's just to give perspective on the fact that I wasn't worried about people's ages because I wasn't thinking about anything other than we're having fun. It's VidCon. We're just all, everyone's drinking, everyone's just having fun and playing games, and that's it. That's all that was on my mind. Um, sorry, I'm just trying to gather my thoughts. Um, Later on, whenever after that night, I stayed in contact with Katie and Ghosty, and I genuinely thought they were really cool people. I thought that they were fun to hang out with. I thought that we would probably hang out in the future, as friends, obviously. And none of those conversations were with George or anything involving George. And again, I'm not here to speak about George or for George. This is completely independent of that. This is just purely for perspective. Um, I had no idea. Again, I'm gonna be repeating myself a lot, but I had absolutely no idea of any uncomfortableness until many months later. And even then, what had happened was Harry made, average. This is something that people know about, but average Harry made a tweet in my replies saying I don't have it, so, but saying something along the lines of that, I implying that I somehow misused like alcohol, and an 18-year-old invited a eight, there's something like I invited an 18-year-old to my hotel room to drink. At the time, that was about Katie. And of course, when it first was tweeted, I was like, what is happening? What is this? Of course, what is this about? But then I thought about it, and I realized, oh wait, this is probably about Katie. And I was like, wow, it's nothing like that. That implication is terrible. I didn't really invite her. She was like a plus one for one of my friends. Um, you know, plus one, and it was not. I was like, it wasn't. I don't think they would think that it's nefarious at all, right? And so I reached out to when that happened. I reached out to like everyone, and I was, again, at that point, I had no impression whatsoever of any sexual thing happening, anything, any problem, anyone having anything, nothing. I had no idea. I thought that he was implying that I did something wrong with Katie. And so I messaged Katie, I messaged Ghosty, I messaged everyone else that was there, pretty much, and was like, "What is happening? What is this? What is this about?" Essentially, um, and I had a conversation with Ghosty. I had a conversation with Katie as well, and also other people. And uh, essentially, my perspective, what my thought process was, this guy hates me, or this, the UK people in the UK, or this creator group. And it was, of course, this is when there's still like the grooming allegations that were that were going on at the time. And so my perspective, oh, these people don't like me because of this, and therefore he's trying to make something innocent of me hanging out with friends seem like something bad. So then I'm operating under that assumption. I'm reaching out to people to talk about it. And At the time, Katie's reply to me, I found odd. And I mentioned that to Ghosty and also to another person that was there. Um, I told them, I said, "Oh, her reply to me is kind of odd. She didn't she implied that what he was saying wasn't true, but also didn't say, hey, you did nothing wrong, or didn't like wasn't being super overly friendly when this happened." And Of course, everyone that I talked to at the time speculated that that was because the group doesn't particularly like me. That was not. It wasn't necessarily. Um, uh, there was no implication of any sexual wrongdoing. There was no implication of George having done anything. There was nothing at all. And obviously, in hindsight now, knowing what I know, um, I'm under the assumption now that that was because people didn't want to share her feelings, and she wasn't ready yet to share her feelings. Um, but I at the time, I had no idea at all. I had no implication of that at all, and so I was under the impression, oh well, oh, she responded weirdly to me about this. Oh, she's probably feeling pressure to from her friends that don't like me, um, to not talk to me. Essentially, is what I was thinking, and I shared that thought with Ghosty. I said to Ghosty, I said, oh, it's I don't know why she responded. It's probably because that. And Ghosty was like, yeah, Ghosty, of course, nothing. Ghosty said then matters to how she feels, how she thinks or feels now, and doesn't impact Katie's experience whatsoever. That's not. I'm only, again, everything I'm saying is for pure perspective. That's it. It's from my perspective as a human being and as a person, to bring understanding to the situation. So when that happened, of course, I reached out to everybody, and I was trying to figure out what exactly was going on. Um, and this was the first time ever that there was any mention of any problem, and that I knew of whatsoever from my perspective. And When talking to somebody that was there, this was the first time ever that somebody mentioned ages. And they mentioned that, they said, "Oh, well, I'm not sure what any of this is about, but maybe Harry's saying that because George is 26 or whatever, and Katie's 18, or Katie was 18." Um, and I was like, "Whoa, like what?" I replied, I was like, "What did?" But nothing happened, right? Like nothing. There was nothing that happened. And of course, they replied, "Like, yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know what they probably just whatever." Now, of course, still at that point, there was no there was no mention of like sexual assault. There was no mention of any uncomfortability, anything at all, um, uh, to me, or that I knew of remotely at all. And so, from my perspective, this was still a matter of, up until that first comment of anything, I was under the impression that I was being accused of something by someone, and I didn't understand what was going on. So, of course, in me talking to everybody, um, and of course, again, like I said, it was speculated. Oh, well, I think this is because of the fact that they don't like you because of the the allegations, and because of the other stuff that was going on. Um, Now, I will say that I think that my perspective, due to my experience with my video, and before my video, my experience with false allegations being thrown at me, that I I was inclined to just assume with pretty much everybody, and I've assumed that with a lot of like friendships that I lost, or with a lot of people that I don't talk to anymore, or people that just don't like me. I've just kind of blanketly made the assumption that that person, oh, they don't talk to me because I have, there's these allegations. That's why. So when the whole, UK group started being extra, you know, mean online, and saying criticizing stuff, and being, saying things about me being evil, or saying things about, whatever online, of course I'm just going to assume that's what that's about. I had no idea at all that this was even a possibility. And even when I went and talked to everybody that was there, no one said anything. No one said anything at all, and that's completely understandable. I'm not. Again, this is just to share my perspective. I'm not saying that, oh, they should have. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I had no idea. I had no idea, and even when I made an effort to try and figure out what was going on, I still had no idea. Um, so anyway, from that point on, of course, we're under that assumption. Uh, Move forward, of course, and then later on, this happened. Of course, when I saw Katie's original post and her original stream that she did, um, I was shocked. I was incredibly shocked. I was confused. Um, uh, I was sad. Genuinely, I didn't know like what to think. I didn't know what to do. Um, and of course, I I watched it multiple times. And then I went and talked to George about it, and was talking about many of the things that happened. I went through every text message that I sent about the event. I went through every conversation that I had ever had about everything, to try and understand what uh, under give understand uh, how I could have overlooked something, if that makes any sense at all. Um, because I was just confused. I was what I'd never. This is out of nowhere. This is something that to me came absolutely out of nowhere. Um, and of course, in talking to George about it, and again, just to clarify, I'm repeating myself, but I'm not speaking for George, and I'm not speaking about George, other than this very specific instance, because it's important. Um, uh, the perspective from what George shared in his stream, of course, is from his it was from his perspective, and is very similar to what he explained to me. Um, and Of course, having the perspective that, hey, these people hate me for what in my mind is no reason. And even when I had a conversation with Harry whenever that happened, and I said, well, what is there? Why do you not like me so much? Like, what did I do? Essentially, I literally asked him that. And he after I explained the whole situation, I cleared up the Katie situation with him. This was again a while ago, before this new information. And I thought things back then. That's all. He didn't share anything. He didn't say anything that I could you know know. Um, and so, first of all, I guess on that point, I want to mention something that Katie said in her tweet. And it's that she mentioned near the end of her tweet, she said something along the lines of like, other people have had experiences with them. And she said them. Um, and uh, I just want to say that if anyone whatsoever has had any negative experience, any any especially anything remotely like this with any of I lost connection, sorry. If anyone has had any negative experience with any of my friends or anybody that I know or that I'm friends with or close with or anything, if anybody has had any negative experience, please tell me. Please, please. I will not go straight to them and tell them. I will not. I will first and foremost try and understand and try and hear what you have to say. I understand there's some people, especially from her friend group and from people, after this point, that probably even, at this point, will not want to believe or hear anything that I have to say. But I'm not this horrible person that will bite your head off. I would love to talk about anything at all, any misunderstanding, any disagreements, anything. And I'm not, again, this is not about this specifically. This is just in general, because I had no idea, and it's horrible of me to think that people thought for there was a lot of people for almost 8 months that were sitting there thinking that, and being very hypercritical of me, without me having any idea what for, essentially. And I of course I would have wanted to hear any of this or anything at all at the moment that I could have at all. And I know, and that, what Katie said in her post saying them, um, it's like, please, 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 if you have had a negative experience with any of my friends, or if you have some of that, please don't think that I'm like, I have this like, I don't even know how to describe it, but it is, they tweet like I'm this like evil manipulative mastermind, essentially. And I understand if you have that opinion. I understand that's but I'm a human being. I am a human being that I will listen to you. I will talk to you. I don't know where I feel like anytime anyone has had a problem with me, or had an experience in the past, any creator that's ever known me will say, I talk, I will message you, I will reply, I will have a conversation openly about anything at all whatsoever. Um, and it hurts me to even think about the fact that, uh, you know that uh, that she was afraid, that Katie was afraid to say something, to me. That hurts me. That hurts me a lot, and that is my fault as well. So I am sorry, Katie. I am sorry that you felt that I was not approachable enough for you to express your feelings or your pain, or, um, what happened. Um, anyway, uh, so uh, of course, just to share, I made a Reddit post. I've taken it down now. But that was after I talked to George. I had gone through everything about my recollection of everything, and of course, uh, in hindsight, the perspective of, let me just collect my thoughts quickly. Sorry. And this isn't scripted or anything. I don't really have a plan of what I'm saying. I'm just trying to get everything that I have to say out there. Um, I guess I'll just kind of break it down. Break down that post. I have to remember what I said exactly now, but, I started off by saying that I thought that, from my memory, that, George's recollection of events was closer to the events than what Katie had said. Um, I think now, having seen her secondary post, that I understand why that was. And that had nothing to do with, and I never said it originally. I never accused any dishonesty or anything, but that had nothing to do with what my thought process. Again, being under the mindset that there was a lot of people, especially surrounding her, that really did have very, very negative opinions of me, and I had no. And of course, had expressed things negatively in the past, and I tried to have conversations with people about it, and I never got any answers. I was just under the assumption, okay, there's people, they hate me, they have no reason why they hate me, and they just, they do things, they do whatever they want, and they just hate me. And so I just understand that I'm operating under that assumption. And so in seeing that, in seeing listening to uh, or reading the details of that night, um, uh, there was certain things that she left out, or there were certain things that she didn't mention, that I understand now why she didn't. But at the time, it felt like uh, under the impression I was under before. Under that impression, it felt like, oh well, this is someone that is surrounded by people that don't like me, don't like George, that are morphing things in a way that make it negative towards me, because that's kind of what you do when you're around friends. If you're around friends that have this negative opinion, and you're saying, oh, sure, you're kind of going along with it. Now, that was a horrible assumption to make. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I made that assumption. I hope that anyone can understand, after you know the the months of I guess negative press, I almost want to say, that I've received before any of this, obviously, that I was operating under that assumption. Um, so that's why I said that. I don't agree with that now. I think that everything that Katie said in her most recent post, well, I don't know about everything. I said the them thing earlier that I hope I can have clarification on. But everything else in her post, I agree with. I think that it seems like her recollection of things that she shared is very accurate, and it filled in a lot of the gaps for my understanding before, and also introduced new things that I had no idea about at all. Um, the first thing that I want to talk about as well is that one of the things that contributed to my um, thoughts that I put into my Reddit post, which involved, I mentioned, uh, I mentioned first of all, I mentioned a creator from the Dream SMP prior. I didn't mention them by name, but I did mention that that person was in the lobby when this happened, and that that was another reason that we had um, perceived things slightly differently, is because of that, having that person involved, and I had a negative view of that person's opinion of me and of their intentions with me, because they had, from my perspective at that point, had shared a lie about me to many people. Now, this person reached out to me and they clarified this, and it turns out to be a misunderstanding. They hadn't meant to spread any lie or anything, or be malicious about anything. There was just, like, I guess somewhere along the lines, someone misunderstood something, and then it ended up being spread that I did something that I didn't. And so they cleared that up, and that slightly, that instant, when that was happening, when they reached out to me, I instantly had a bit of a perspective shift, because that was contributed largely to um, why I had my mindset that I did. And then secondly, the fact that she had shared uh, her feelings of discomfort the next day. um, Seeing that obviously massively shifted my thought process as well, because again, I was under the impression of thinking there's a lot of people that don't like me for no reason. She's friends with these people, and that's why uh, she could be being uh, she could be recounting things differently. Again, just want to clarify so I can repeat myself as much as I can. Uh, None of what I'm saying at all is in counter to anything Katie has said. Nothing that I've said is an argument or disagreeing in any way whatsoever. I think that Katie deserves all the support that you can give her. Everything that I'm talking about and that I will continue to talk about is just purely for perspective and understanding. And I think that it's very important for things like this that we discuss, because I think that things like this need to be prevented in the future. And I think that this is part of that. Um, I think that I need to share my full perspective. I need to share my understandings. That way, everyone can have a better understanding. So please, 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 please do not take any of this as me trying to make excuses for anybody, including myself. Um, this is just to understand each other. Um, so anyway, uh, so back to that. I mentioned in my Reddit post, I talk about consent and I talk about nonverbal consent. I just want to clarify something. Um, Consent must be explicit. Yes, you can have nonverbal consent, like I mentioned, but all consent must be like explicit consent must be extremely obvious consent. There's not a, oh well, I think that this person consented. No, it's either explicit consent or no consent. Now, when I was writing this, of course, I'm thinking from my perspective of my experiences with consent. I have experienced nonverbal consent through people, whether they're moving your hand to them or they're kissing you or they're doing something without saying, hey, can I do this? But also, all those experiences have been with being in a relationship, or being with somebody that you've already been with, many times, or and that is different. And I did not think about that or really acknowledge that. And so this is just me acknowledging that and recognizing that I didn't process that. Someone that I was talking to about this yesterday, um, before Katie's second post, they asked me. They said, "Oh, well, would you have done what George did?" And I said no. Um, and then of course, the next logical question is, well, why? And me answering that question uh, very much changed my perspective as well, because I thought about it and I thought, well, I think that for the same reason that I was in the room and I wasn't thinking about, sexual things or thinking about ages or anything, because we were just all hanging out. I would not have at all expected. I don't know this person. I don't know this person's body language. I don't know this person's relationship with me or with anything at all. And I would have felt uncomfortable doing anything. And I thought about it and I thought I would have. And why would I have felt uncomfortable? I would have felt uncomfortable because I would have thought, what if this person doesn't like this? And I would never want to do that. So I wouldn't, unless I was 100% sure on what I knew, I wouldn't. And I wouldn't ever be 100% sure in that situation. Um, so that obviously made me rethink how I was thinking about the specifics of the situation. Um, Now, uh, sorry, I'm just collecting my thoughts. Um, I think that, uh, and just to be again, I'm being completely honest. I have no script. I have no plan of what I'm saying. I'm just going to say what I'm genuinely thinking. Um, I do not think that George is a bad person. I do not think that George was sitting there thinking, oh, let me, oh, she's not going to like this, or, oh, anything. I think that he did something fucked up. I think that what happened was fucked up. I think that it was terrible. And I think that I feel terrible for any involvement that I had. And I feel terrible for Katie. It is a terrible situation. It is a terrible thing, the pain that she feels. And there's nothing that I can do to change that. There's nothing that George can do to change that. And that's fucked up. That is incredibly fucked up. Um, and sad and terrible and scary. And that's something that, again, I don't want to speak for George, so I won't. I'm sure he has what he wants to say, and he will say it. Um, but um, I left that night thinking that everything was a great experience and everything was I had so much fun with new friends and old friends. And it's terrible thinking about looking back and knowing that someone else left it with not that same experience. And I wish that I had known that. I wish that I knew that then in that moment. Um, I think that I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of people that think that I'm so calculated. Everything that I do is so planned out, and that I'm just. I think right now that I'm being manipulative, and I'm trying to, I care about just my image, or but I care. Sorry, I care about people, and I want people to talk to me if they have anything, any problem. With anyone, including myself. I never want to hurt anybody. I never want to do bad. I never want to do evil. I never want to contribute to anyone's life in a negative way. And I'm sorry. I just want to reiterate that, and I final what I'm just to say, because I feel it necessary to say, because it is what I believe and it is how I feel. I think that George left that night feeling the same way that I did. And I think that that's just as fucked up as the fact that I didn't know. I think that the problem lies in that um, George didn't know, and he should have known. He should have known. And I think that's something that he has to accept and reflect on himself, um, and realize. I think that he has stuff to say that he will. I don't know exactly what it will be or what he'll say. Um, I love George. I think that obviously he's been my best friend for a very long time. And that doesn't matter in the context of the situation. I'm only saying that to give perspective into I'm just saying that. That's it. I guess I probably missed things. I didn't write anything down. I probably should have. Uh, yeah, I don't know what else I can really add. This isn't about me. This is about Katie. So I guess I'll reiterate. I'm sorry, Katie. I really am.